Welcome, everybody. Today's topic is one that's interesting to me about sorry. Sorry, sorry, sorry. I'm sorry. I was late. I'm sorry I'm late. I'm sorry I didn't send you an email. We're always apologizing. This is a very US of A American view, as Ron reminded me. We'll get the Canadian perspective too, and we may get it from Sheila in Kenya, because I remember Kenya, they're often saying, Anna, I think it was when I was in and out of Kenya a lot. But let's talk about first in the chat box. I shared my screen, yes. Just put a number in the chat. Do you never say it? Maybe just a few times a day, all the time, or you have no idea how often you say it because it's so innate. Ron, you can let that person in and just watch them, maybe ask them for their name. All right, we have a 2, less than 10, less than a handful, trying to be better. Great, I love that idea. Okay, Peter, Ron, number 2. So we say it, we're not aware of it. I noticed when there's a glitch on a webinar I'm doing with you all, the first thing I say is, sorry, the slide slipped forward. And I don't know I'm doing it until I get on the editing in Descript. And interestingly enough, I'm old fashioned. I turned on the TV the other night to watch something on PBS. I don't always watch highbrow stuff, but sometimes I watch interesting things. And there was a show called Reba on. It's a sitcom. And I caught Reba saying, hey, whoever it was, you walked away with my pen. And he said, sorry, and gave it back to her. And it wasn't a fancy pen, obviously. It was a pen anybody could buy anywhere. So it's there in our lexicon. But here's what I'd like you to take away from today. Say sorry for really serious cases. And also, I apologize or apologies. Those two words really can be used effectively if we limit our use of them. So today we're going to talk about sorry, and see where we go with that. Then we'll go on to being sorry is not an everyday situation. We'll look at some of those situations. And of course, we always end with what should you do? I feel like I'm on that TV show. What would you do? What should you do? All right, so let's get started. Sorry. Here's what I hear from people. You know what? I apologize for not answering immediately. I worked at a project, I was in charge of a project that worked with a US government agency, and there was an expectation that people would be at their desks constantly in a company of meetings, but at their desks answering emails the minute it came in from someone in the government side of the project. It wasn't realistic. And then they would write, I can't answer right now. I'll answer you in 2 or 3 hours. It's really? People aren't dying because of this. This is not a serious situation. Or people say, I'm sorry, the cookies are all gone. Really? Okay, but I'm sorry. Or sorry, I could have done better. Now, that could be needing the sorry, or maybe not. As far as I can tell, sorry's become a filler word. It's the default place we go to. And I'm not saying that it's not useful, but I want to point out how we can begin to modify our behavior and set a role model for other people. We want to take back our power. This is all about power. Be powerful in your communications. Because when I see sorry, it makes me feel bad for you that you're giving away your power in a situation that didn't need to be. You didn't need to worry about it. So being sorry is not an everyday situation. Maybe you could give an example in the chat box when it's really important to use sorry or an apologize at work. Anybody have any ideas they want to share? if you miss a deadline. Yes, Mary. But even that, I'm going to temper that. But yes, a deadline, sure. If a proposal's supposed to be in the night before and you didn't get it until the next morning, no one's going to read it for sure. Anybody else? All right, let's look at 3 that I've outlined. Oh, when you've made a commitment and did not put in your best effort and it failed. Probably yes. Probably yes, but again, we're at work, so the kinds of things I think of about sorry would be sorry for a colleague's serious situation, like someone who's been fired, let go, has a performance issue that you know is affecting your team, for example. I'm really sorry to see you go. I know it's difficult for you. An apology for a serious mistake. I apologized for the rounding error that caused $1 million error in what we presented for. That's serious. You definitely have to apologize. Or sorry for people's serious health or family issues, a death in the family, someone who's suddenly been diagnosed with a disease that they're going to have to take time off. And in fact, when you look at the definition of sorry, it really is the first one is someone else has some misfortune and you're feeling empathy with it, or where something happened, for example, the commitment that someone, Ron mentioned, you didn't live up to your side. Those are serious enough to use the words. But I want to propose how you can replace sorry, apologies, apologize. And ironically, literally in the last 5 days since I've been back, these are emails that I got from people about mostly about the course. Someone had mistyped her email in the registration form. And I looked at it the first time. I thought, well, that's bizarre, but maybe there are many people with her name. So I just sent it. And of course, it bounced back. So I tried again, but I had to write her a message this time so I could say, please confirm, let me know. And she said, apologize, I likely accidentally mistyped it. Great, but you don't need to apologize for it. Here's what you could say. Thanks for figuring out my correct email that I mistyped in the form. You're acknowledging the effort that I did, not that we all need to do that, but we're emphasizing the positive and making it come to a conclusion. When I see I'm apologizing for this, I want to write back and say, please don't give away your power. You don't need to apologize. It wasn't a big deal. It took me literally 20 seconds to figure out what it really should be. Someone said, apologies for being late finishing the step. She's been in the turmoil of AID and then last week had gotten their termination notice. And I appreciate her sharing that with me, but she voluntarily sent me an update, but said, apologies for being a bit late when we've back and forth emails about, because she's in a very different time zone where we can't have live meetings together. She is apologizing that she's late still getting to step 2 when there's no actual schedule in self-paced. I'm happy to encourage her to get it done, which she did. She submitted it. But she didn't need to say apologies. She could say, I've been delayed in finishing this step, but I'm already working on step 2. That's great. Just lets us know without saying apologies for being a little late. I want you all to keep your power in conversations. And someone who asked me for easy help, it wasn't a big deal. Do I get annoyed that people can't find a link? No, because you know what? They get a lot of email from me at the beginning of the course, but also sometimes they forget what they're looking for. The scheduling the review meetings, it's a one-time thing that I have a form for, and there she's probably looking through emails like, oh, so it's very easy. She could have written, I may be confused about the link. I can't find it. I'd appreciate it if you could send it again. And it's going to take me less than a minute to find it and make sure she can. So what should you do? The answer's right there. These are all reframing to specify, for example, delay in answering. The people who were answering the government agency immediately you can say, as I did to someone today, I hope this information is still timely. I was in a day-long meeting without digital access. Or not. You don't even need to give that information. You're just sending the information back. And it's up to the requester of the information whether it's timely and how big a deal it is. Or asking for a changed meeting time. I get people saying, the doctor's running late. I can't make our meeting. I have to apologize. It's like, no, it happens to all of us. We all have scheduling things. Not to worry. I have conflicts that, and many of my schedule things ahead of time with people, especially for the coursework. So we can, on both sides, on your side and my side, have conflicts that arise since the meeting was originally scheduled. Is it possible to reschedule? That's all you have to. You have to. This is one I used to use when I was reviewing peer-reviewed journal articles. Most of the time I would make a deadline, but we all know how those editors have to fight to get any comments at all. So I wrote, I know this is a couple days beyond the deadline. I hope these comments are still useful. I'm sure they were. It's there I can talk to the life of an editor waiting to get a woman who needed the link. Or last week, I discovered someone wrote me and said, Sue, that link that's in the welcome email goes to a blank page. And I had forgotten that I'd updated the curriculum to not show some older information. So I wrote, someone let me know the link I sent doesn't work. Here's what you can find at the curriculum. So it didn't have to be, oh, I'm so sorry that you got the wrong link, especially because no one had started the work on the course. This was one of the first people. So if we're back to, I'm sorry, the cookies are gone. The cookies are gone, but we still have fruit. Or the cookies are gone, you missed it. We don't need to apologize for the limited number of cookies that we can find an office picture where someone was fitting with. The sorry I could have done better could be something fairly minor, not the rounding error. It could have been, I know I should have paid closer attention. Again, you don't have to apologize. So let's get rid of these kinds of phrases where we're using sorry as a filler word rather than just saying straight up what the effect of it is. And we can go back to this, say sorry for serious cases, apologize for serious cases. So, Ron, I'd love to hear the Canadian side, but also generally, what do you think about this and how do we get people to focus on communications? In fact, it's almost time for us to have you talk again about communications for.
That is really interesting because while I was hearing you talk about why do we say sorry, and so from a Canadian perspective, they are known to be those sorrowful Canadians. And it's a habit. And it's, I think, like you said, it's a filler word. And it's about showing your meat or something, or showing that you're, and I think that's what you hit on. And it really hits home in terms of that. And I also like what your proposed solutions are, which is own up to the issue and then deal with it in one way or another. And so that, to my mind, that you hit the essence of it. In other words, it's not about, okay, I've messed up or something happened and I'm sorry. And that kind of wishy-washy kind of thing that you're saying at the beginning, somehow, I don't know, make yourself more lovable. I don't know. But it's that thing. It's very Canadian. And you hit the nail on the head. And it's everybody else too, because I recognize all the circumstances you were talking about. And I agree 100% with your responses. In that, own up, deal with it. How are you correcting it? It's all about it's being responsible for your part in whatever happened, taking ownership of what your part is in whatever happened, and then maybe help to make it better or whatever it is you can do. But you're right, you don't have to apologize because something got in your way, your life happened. And so why should I apologize for my life? And things happen and we should get on and so on. I guess I, as a Canadian, should have apologized, Sue, because I'm not going to be able to participate later this week, and because I'm going to be away, and I'm agonized. This is me
Yeah.
agonizing over something that I'd already decided, and you and
Yeah.
I have agreed, and it works.
Yeah.
It works. I'm unhappy in my own mind that I'm going to miss those things, but I'm not sorry that I'm going away.
A
My wife
great
and I made the
example,
time.
Ron. I love
You
that
know,
you brought that
and
up.
so thank you very much for this. I think you hit the nail right on the head.
Thank you. Anybody else have comments or examples of things you say or someone says to you, or any sharing? Go ahead, Mary. Sure.
This isn't so much in the workplace, but I sometimes pick up on if I'm in the grocery store and I happen to either get too close to someone, like I just immediately apologize or accidentally bump them. And then because I'm trying to be more mindful about this, and I think I had shared an article with you that I wrote about somebody's book where one of the things that she pointed out was over apologizing, and how, at least from her perspective, it tended to be more women. So yeah, it's interesting once you start being mindful, figuring out when it happens.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, that's great. I forgot about that. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah, can I just comment on that? That's very Canadian too. Is somebody bumps into me and I apologize, and it's that I watch it. I've seen my wife do it. And she's Scottish, but she's become really Canadian, and it's the kind of stuff that we do. And it's weird when you think about it. Is you bumped into me and I'm saying I'm sorry, and that's so true. I've done it. I've seen it. I've participated. It's just that what a wonderful example.
Yeah, it's great. Anybody else?
Yeah,
think
Sue, I was thinking that I've been trying to be more cognizant of it, and it's sometimes it feels weird not starting with an apology, and I wonder if it's sometimes I get to thinking in my own mind, is it too aggressive? But it's not. You just, it's not a necessary thing. And I think it makes it less sincere when you really do apologize for something. If you start everything with a, I'm sorry, I have to ask you to do this. Sometimes I'm asking you to do something that's your job. And we're supposed to collaborate on this. So I
Yeah,
shouldn't be apologizing for that.
yeah,
We have to have it. So I've been trying to be cognizant of it too, like Mary. And sometimes I still do it, but I'm trying to cut back.
that's great, Peter. I'm glad to hear both of you are making efforts. Sheila, did you unmute? I thought maybe you unmuted.
Oh, I think Peter took the words right out of my mouth. And in our context, it's almost like being polite to the point where sometimes you don't even have to, where someone is the one that has wronged you, but you end up apologizing. And sometimes you'll say even sorry multiple times. So you'll be like, oh, sorry, I need to ask you to do this. And yeah, and also in the African context, especially with our West African friends, sometimes it will be even, there will even be a please followed by a sorry.
Oh,
So sometimes you'll find them starting a sentence with, please, madam, I'm sorry. And then they continue on with the sentence. And I do feel, to your point, it does at some point take the power away, and it lessens the seriousness of what's being apologized for. And like Peter said, in my work, I'm also trying to be cognizant of losing that power of sorry and using it more, being conscious of how I use it and not just use it anyhow.
that's great. So glad to hear all three of you say that. That's so interesting that you've been aware of it and are working on it. And it's not easy. It is, it's like me and filler words. It's not easy to get rid of those either. But at least the awareness, we're never going to change the way people say things, but just our awareness of it. And as I showed you in the reframing, when you reframe it, it takes the conversation, I think, to a different level. I'm sorry, there's no more cookies. When we're in a work situation or at home, the cookies are the cookies. But when you can reframe it to say, you missed the cookies, but we still have fruit, or you did miss the cookies, but we're glad to see you anyway, it helps make a continuity rather than put your apology out there about something you can't do much about. So save it for the serious things that we can't change when people have work issues or health issues or whatever. Any last comments? My voice is going, so
Yeah.
good that this
Yeah.
was a short one. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead, Ron.
actually, yeah, something has occurred to me, and it's the difference between sorry and I apologize. It's easy to lump them together and make them the same. But I've experienced a situation where someone said, I'm sorry, and people said, is that about you or about the situation? And so I'm sorry is actually internal, whereas I apologize is more overt and it's the other thing. So the difference between saying I'm sorry, it can be interpreted one of two ways. I apologize, or you're sorry for yourself, or sorry for whatever. And it's really it's all about me. But I apologize seems to be more about the other person, and I apologize for, etc. And then, so when you get to that point where, okay, it's not good enough just to say, this is what happened, this is the result, and blah, 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 whatever it happens to be. Yeah, their cookies are gone, here's some fruit. That's fine. But if I did not anticipate the large crowd that would come up, I should have. And then you might want to go somewhere with that if you feel it's necessary because of whatever, because it's a planning exercise. I don't know. And there might be a reason. And then the thing is, if you say I'm sorry versus I apologize, it has a subtle difference, I think. So I would urge, I guess, when we're in this situation, to consider that difference. And I think apologize is a better word in the end when you're trying to offer up that extra level of remorse for something that you could have
Thank
done
you.
differently.
Yeah.
You could have done better.
So Ron, I'll ask you to close the meeting.
Thanks, everyone. And thanks again, Sue, for the effort you put in. I really appreciate what you do. And this one was particularly personal. Thank you. And I really appreciate it because I was afraid, in part, that we might have gone on to something else and so on. But you did not let us down. Thank you very much for the wonderful effort you put into it. And I'm sorry you've got a cold and it's really hurting you. So anyway, thank you, everyone. I look forward to when we get together again. And these are always wonderful times together.